Hello, lovely Lilin. My name is Robert Yetter, and this is Nerd Versus. This is our first episode, the inaugural episode of the show, so I feel it's necessary that we do something big. A topic that is very close to my heart. We have Force of Will versus Magic the Gathering. I know how it sounds. Magic the Gathering has been captivating the nerddom since 1993. It's the first trading card game, and it is probably the most well-developed and beloved one. Versus a card game that owes much of its substance to Magic the Gathering. We'll see how this is any contest. So, just some background facts about the two games. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you already know extensively about both of these, but just in case, just a little background. Magic the Gathering was released in 1993. It has over 20 million players, over 70 books. It spawned video games, board games, a plethora of merchandise, and it's won a ton of awards pretty much every year since its conception. And on the other hand, we have Force of Will, which was released in Japan in 2012, and currently it's the fourth most popular trading card game. I'm assuming that it's behind Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! But I think, Buddy Card Fight is up there. Vice Schwartz is kind of no longer existing. That was actually a pretty good game. I enjoyed they probably ran into some licensing issues because they were doing all anime characters and such. I had a Persona deck. It was pretty sweet. My wife had Sword Art 2 deck. As far as popularity, Magic the Gathering and Force of Will are pretty apart on the spectrum. Some of that is due to how new Force of Will is, and just how impactful Magic is. But I think that Force of Will is much more relatable to Magic the Gathering. Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are just different play styles. I think Force of Will is a lot closer to Magic. And so that's why I decided to do these two together. And they're also the two that I happen to enjoy the most. I've been playing a lot of Force of Will lately, as opposed to Magic the Gathering. So, I have 5 categories in which I'm going to use to compare and contrast Force of Will and Magic the Gathering. And those 5 categories are art, which has the more captivating and creative artwork; lore, which has the more engrossing lore, more of it. We're going to do mechanics, essentially which game has better card mechanics, better options for synergy, what has the more exciting gameplay. Going to look at value, which cards are more affordable at casual or competitive levels, which cards are easier to resell, and I'm also going to judge the two based on my personal experience. So here we go. First category is art. Now this one is one that seems to resonate with people who play Force of Will, because the art in Force of Will is obviously better. Force of Will has so many more full art cards, really cool holographic and texturized cards. Essentially all of their cards now you could consider them full art, as opposed to Magic the Gathering. They have that really nice gold outline, whereas early Magic started out with a kind of a white outline, really gaudy looking, not very appealing looking card, kind of plain. That's the only way I can put it, I guess. And really, Force of Will started out similar to that. They started with an orange outline, orangey yellow, and it was really terrible. The art was so simple. You could tell that the budget wasn't there. But now, I think Force of Will has definitely surpassed Magic the Gathering. Force of Will cards are just colorful, and they're fun. They have a lot more pop to them. The only kind of qualm I have with them is that those full art cards, sometimes the text is hard to read, but that's about it. Otherwise, I think Force of Will takes this category hands down. They definitely do a good job on that. Next up we have Lore, and this one I'm not going to spend a lot of time on because Magic the Gathering obviously has this category in the bag. I mean, they have over 70 novels, like I said before, and fully fleshed out storylines for, their planeswalkers and other characters. Force of Will has some, I looked on their website, they have what they call manga, but it's really like a page or two of nice art, but it's really nothing fleshed out like Magic the Gathering. They have some stories that are really short, simple. So Magic the Gathering really goes a lot deeper in exploring the roots of the cards. There's every card that you draw, there's a story behind it, and a lot of the quotes that are at the bottom of those cards are straight from the books. So Magic the Gathering takes Lore. And now, a message.
Wednesdays on Eventide, Robert Yetter and Mike Shea sit down and throw albums at each other, talking about them, picking them apart, ripping them a new one. All different artists, all different genres, all different levels of suckage. It's Track Record, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. on the Eventide podcast feed. For more information, go to eventideent.com. Are you into making music, videos, or podcasts? Are you a local comedic talent in need of some much-needed publicity? Are you a behind-the-scenes professional interested in audio-video production, graphic design, and public relations? Eventide Entertainment is actively seeking talents, clients, and professionals to help our business grow into something truly special. And we want you to be one of those. For more information, go to facebook.com/Eventide Entertainment or send us an email at eventideent@gmail.com.
And welcome back to Nerd Versus. Next we have the big category, right? And that's mechanics. Force of Will owes a lot of what it does as a game to Magic the Gathering. For instance, all the colors are the same. You've got your 5 basic colors. They're called something different in Force of Will, but it's essentially the same. Even the theme that surrounds those colors, the black death or red aggro, white health, stuff like that, that's pretty much the same in Force of Will. And there's some other similarities too, like the abilities. For example, Force of Will borrows some abilities. They name them different things. Flash from Magic is Quick Cast in Force. Hexproof from Magic is Barrier in Force. And the list goes on. There's a few of those same mechanics that are the same in both games, perform the same function. There's quite a few things different in Force of Will, though, that I like better than Magic, actually. And one is the Magic Stone deck. I think that's a very good use of mana. It makes gameplay a lot smoother. You don't get mana screwed, which is the most frustrating thing ever. The separate mana deck, I think, is a call to a game like Hearthstone, where you get a mana every turn, essentially, and it just makes things more fun to me. One thing that is a negative about Force of Will is the flexibility with multicolor cards. They haven't established a good, steady base as far as the multicolor cards go and how those interact with each other. The synergy is a lot less in Force of Will There's tons of options in Magic the Gathering. But again, that's an advantage of being old. Magic the Gathering has 20 years on Force of Will, so of course there's tons more possibilities. But Force of Will is getting there. I like also too the J-Ruler mechanic in Force of Will. It's like having a commander for every game. It's lovely. Force of Will ultimately is shallow when it comes to multicolor possibilities and deck building possibilities, but it's growing. I honestly have been having more fun playing Force of Will than Magic the Gathering lately, so this category is a tie between Magic the Gathering and Force of Will. Next category we have is value. This was a tough category for me because a lot of shops aren't really taking Force of Will cards for resale. For example, I opened up a booster pack and I got what's called an uber rare, right? They essentially go for $150 online. It's like, I asked the shop guy, hey, how much are you going to give me for this card? You know, it's worth $150. He's like, well, we don't actually take singles of Force of Will right now, so do it on your own. Good luck, buddy. So Force of Will definitely loses in regards of resale. And again, as I've said, Magic the Gathering is a lot older. There's more possibilities for there to be card errors, which make the value go up. And just, you know, the varying recycled cards throughout the different sets, and depending on which set, the value could go up or down, if it's hollow or not. Really, Force of Will only has whether a card is foil or if it's full art, texturized, stuff like that. There hasn't been these recycled cards throughout the different sets. That's just not that old. Now, I personally have spent a ton of money on Magic the Gathering. A deck that has everything in it that I want will usually cost me close to $100. The deck building in Force of Will isn't really that strong for me. There's not a lot of possibilities, and this kind of jumps back to the mechanics. That lends to the idea that I'm less likely to spend a lot of money on a deck because I'm not exactly sure what are the best cards, if that makes any sense. I think in general it's more expensive to play Magic competitively. If you go to a Friday night Magic, everyone's going to be playing the same expensive cards, those tricky lands that cost $30 each. You know, I'd rather be sitting around my table with a bunch of friends, drinking rum and tequila, and just having fun. If you're going to worry about if you have a Tarmogoyf in your deck or not, then you don't need to be hanging out with me, because you're on a different level than I am. I do think, though, that Magic the Gathering wins this category, if only for the fact that you can sell your cards at the shop. Once shops start dealing with Force of Will cards more heavily and selling singles, then they'll have a little bit of a boost in this category, but not yet. The last category we have is my personal experience with these two games. What it all comes down to, considering all the factors that we've discussed, is how do I play these games, and which one do I get more enjoyment out of? Okay, so as I mentioned before, I'm a very casual player. Typically, for Magic, you build a huge deck that has a bunch of cards in it that will make your friends hate you. And it's a very slow game, but you get drunk while you're doing it, and it's gas. Magic the Gathering is way more nostalgic of a game for me. I've been playing since they used to put beginner, expert, and advanced on the deck boxes. I have a lot of history with the game. Force of Will, though, is refreshing, and I love the mechanics, even if they borrow a lot from Magic the Gathering. We already talked about that. What ruined it for me was the competitive play of Magic the Gathering. I think that is a level that I really don't enjoy, and I can't relate to the the thought process behind wanting to do that, because you're just making yourself like everyone else, right? You take your deck to someone who is a Friday Night Magic regular, right? And they're going to tell you which cards you're going to want to put in there, because those are the cards that everyone is putting in there if you want to do this certain thing with your deck. And then, and then they'll tell you exactly how much that card costs, because these guys are some super nerds, and it's awesome. I love those guys. But that's not for me, okay? Force of Will has more appeal to me right now as a casual, non-competitive gamer. My history with Magic is much more robust. This category is really hard for me. Why don't we call it a tie? Okay? So if we tie that one up, that gives me Force of Will 3 and Magic the Gathering 4. So Magic is the winner here. But Force of Will, you are very close. And I think you were going to give Magic a run for its money, because you're doing a lot of things better than Magic is. So, MTG, look out, son. Anywho, this has been a presentation of Eventide Entertainment. I hope you enjoyed it. This is Nerd vs. Episode 1, Magic the Gathering versus Force of Will. My name is Robert Yetter. Lovely Lillian, it is always a pleasure. I will talk to you next time on Episode 2, where I think I'm just going to read some poetry to you and see how you like it. Whatever, I can do what I want. Okay, bye.